require some skin in the game. Equal opportunities or equal distribution? In this episode, I'm going to address the question, how do I prevent my children from developing an entitlement mindset? Would you like to know how? Stay with me. So my name's Doug Andrew, and I've helped a lot of people, very successful people, who later in life came and they were very frustrated. Why? Oftentimes I would ask them, golly, how did you build this empire, this multi-million-dollar business? And they would start sharing their story. Oh man, my parents grew up in the Great Depression. And so they taught me the value of work, and I have worked so hard. Man, my kids will never have to work as hard as I did. Well, 2 or 3 decades later, they would come in for an annual review in retirement, and I would say, so how's it going? And oftentimes they would say, not well. Doug, I don't know what is wrong with our kids. They don't even know how to work. And I would say, well, maybe you stole that from them. Maybe in your effort to not have them work, which is what you said made a man out of you. I mean, you said you were always having to overcome challenges and setbacks and recessions and everything. And in your effort to not have your children go through that, you actually stole from them the opportunity to become strong like you did by always bailing them out and rescuing them. And so then I would start on a path to help them abolish the entitlement mindset from their kids when they would say, Mom, Dad, hey, I just had this happen. Will you pay for it? Can I have? Can you give me $50,000? When do I get my share? And this is what happens all too often, and this is what motivated me to give all kinds of solutions and write a book called Entitlement Abolition. I've written 11 books. This is one of my favorite. It's a bestseller. And at the end of this episode, I'm going to show you how you can get a free copy. I'm so passionate about this. I'll pay for the book. You just pay nominal $5.95 shipping and handling. But in the book, one of the chapters that is the favorite is where people begin to rethink their thinking by using one of my favorite tools. This tool is what I call the Cash Fund Blueprint. Now, I'm going to explain what that means, and I'm going to go through and help you understand basically what this tool does and why it's so powerful. So, the Cash Fund Blueprint, the word cash is an acronym, K.A.S.H, which stands for knowledge, attitudes, skills, habits. See, if you were going to be playing in a golf tournament and you had the choice of using a professional golfer like Phil Mickelson's swing, or you could use his clubs, what would you choose? I would rather have his swing, not the clubs. And I've noticed that a lot of financial advisors and estate planners seem to focus on the clubs, the commodity, buy this mutual fund or this stock or bond or gold or silver. No, it's not in the commodity, it's in the strategy, it's in the swing. Well, I've noticed that most estate planning attorneys seem to focus on dividing up the golf clubs and the trophies among the kids and the grandkids when you die. I'd rather leave behind the swing, how to fish, to my kids and grandkids. Instead of dumping a bunch of fish in their lap, I want them to be self-reliant, to never be unemployed, because unemployment is a mental condition, not a physical condition. Security is in the individual, not in somebody giving you a job to do. And so when we talk about leaving behind the swing or how to fish, this is where the cash fund comes in, because knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits, that cash will generate C.A.S.H, the money, into perpetuity, because you're leaving behind how to fish instead of just dumping fish, because like the adage said, you're just feeding them for a day. I want to feed them for a lifetime and empower them. So how do you do that? Most attorneys, when they sit down with you, they take about 15 minutes and they use lingo and jargon that most couples sort of nod up and down like they understand what they're talking about. And at some point, the attorney will usually say, now, you want to be fair, don't you? You want to divide all this up equally, don't you? And if they can get you nodding up and down, they're mentally going, hot diggity dog, I got another one. It is so easy. They take your children's names and they plug it into a boilerplate trust document on their computer. They take your assets, put it into the trust document, and when you die, chunk, 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 they divide it up and dump it in your kids' laps equally, and they're done. There is nothing more unequal than the equal distribution to unequals. People go, huh? No. Let's use health, okay? I do not believe our Creator, whatever your belief is of a higher power, gives equal distribution of health to all of us, regardless of how some of us may choose to abuse our bodies. Our Creator gives us equal opportunities, not equal distribution. Our Creator can't go, I'm going to give you excellent health, like these people over here who exercise and eat so carefully and everything, and you've been abusing your body with all these addictions and everything like that, but I'm going to give you equal health. No, our Creator gives us equal opportunities. So in a trust, you ought to give those you care about equal opportunities, but not equal distribution. You need to require some skin in the game. So that's what this worksheet does, is it helps those you care about step up to the plate, and they will want to learn your knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits. They want to be responsible and accountable, have some skin in the game, and they have equal opportunities to the resources in your family bank, is what I call it, instead of just waiting around for equal distribution, which ruins half of the kids in this country. So I'm going to go through each of these little areas briefly, and you'll see how powerful this tool is, and you may want to change your trust to equal opportunity rules of governance instead of equal distribution. So when I teach workshops about this, or when people read my book, Entitlement Abolition, the chapter that talks about this takes them through a thinking process, and it's equal opportunity versus equal distribution. So in this worksheet, I have people go through and think and fill out these boxes. I will read them to you here because these are the categories where people want to usually help their children or grandchildren or their posterity, and this is the governing principle. So for example, a very popular one is education. Now, if you want to help your children or grandchildren with their education, require some skin in the game. My parents couldn't afford to pay for my college education or my wife's. We worked. I worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken 30 hours a week. My wife worked at a bookstore. We got scholarships, grants, and loans. We didn't expect them to pay for college. We actually had better study habits than many of our friends whose parents were just shelling it out. They goofed off. So when we had our 6 children, we didn't want any of them to think we would just pay for college. They had to have some skin in the game. If they got a scholarship, we might match it. If they saved for college, we might match it dollar for dollar up to 1 PhD or something like that. But it wasn't just a handout. They had ownership in that. If they were short, sometimes if they wanted a semester abroad, they had to sell their motorcycle, their car, sacrifice. If they were short, they came and they borrowed money and told us how they would pay it back. If they couldn't pay it back with cash, they would paint, they would shampoo carpets, they would mow lawns, but we required skin in the game. We gave them a hand up, not a handout. And so we did that with their education. Same thing with health and medical. We gave them incentives. If you'll join a fitness center, if you will hire a nutritionist, we'll match dollar for dollar, because we'd rather do that than try to cure the disease later on, trying to get you to lose 60 pounds. And so we had incentives for them. Emergency needs. I mean, a lot of children have their own definition of what constitutes an emergency. We had very specific categories that were emergencies where we would loan them money and they would pay it back in one form or another, either cash or work. If they wanted to start a business, they could withdraw $1,000 or $2,000 as seed money, and they had to 10 times it in 1 year and give 100% of it away to their favorite charity. And if it was a good business, we would then incorporate a business and help them, go into a partnership or loan them money. But there are rules where they could start a new business. Same thing with personal loans, supplemental income, weddings. Our children always paid for a portion of their weddings. I wanted them to have significant honeymoons more than just a lavish wedding. And then when we give them a wedding gift in order to do that, we get over here to a personal residence. I have many clients that might match dollar for dollar up to $100,000 to help their child acquire a personal residence. But many of them require their child to read one of my books on how to not use that money in an unnecessary down payment because they'd be far better off. And so those are called rules of governance. It could be family retreats, vacations, charitable distributions. It could be military service, missionary service, humanitarian service. There is also a category, do you want your children to stay home until a certain age, like 18 or 21, and save the money? Instead of going out and spending a bunch of money on an apartment and student housing and so forth. But then, once they're 21, if they were still at home, we had our daughter and son-in-law come home after dental school because they didn't know where they wanted to buy some dental practices. It wasn't a just handout. They had to help pay the food. They did the dishes. They did the lawn care. They contributed. It wasn't just a freebie where they could move back home. Otherwise, they will be professional campers in your home when they say, Mom, Dad, I just need to move in for 3 months, and 3 years later, they're still there because you don't have any rules that say, you will do this, you'll contribute this. That's the power behind the cash fund blueprint. Once you live this way, it will be no surprise when you pass away when they go, what? You disinherited me? No, it's going to continue to operate for you, your children. You have skin in the game. You have these resources. You have equal opportunities, but it's not equal distribution when you die, and they're not going to be hovering around like vultures waiting for their share. So you can probably tell I'm passionate about this. If this is resonating with you and you want to consider changing the way that you are helping instead of hindering those that you care about, whether it's your children, grandchildren, employees, whatever hat you're wearing, I would strongly recommend you start focusing on equal opportunities, not equal distribution. You can learn what I mean by that in my book, Entitlement Abolition. I would love to send a free copy of this book to you. I'll pay for the book. You just pay $5.95 shipping and handling. And this is your start. It's about 200 pages, 12 chapters. This will also give you resources to exercises like I just explained. And there's also audio versions. There's an 18-hour masterclass on this. Just go to entitlementabolitionbook.com. You can get a free copy sent out to you. Here's to your brighter future.